Nightmare Boy is a Metroidvania game developed by the Vanir Project and published by Badland Games. You play as Billy, a young boy who is taken into the nightmare realm of Donarok by the evil wizard Baldur. You must fight many horrific creatures, save other trapped children, and defeat Baldur in order to wake yourself up. Being a Metroidvania, this game relies heavily on platforming. At first, the controls feel pretty floaty, though it's easy to adjust after a few moments playing. This is where most of the challenge comes in. You'll find yourself dying more to traps than enemies, like the spikes. Falling in them almost always leads to instant death because you have very low invincibility frames. You fight using your punch attacks and various spells that you acquire through rescuing children. You'll get combat spells like fireballs and skull shields, to practical buffs like health upgrades and extra jumps. Along the way, you'll be collecting gems. These gems are used mostly for one thing: saving the game. Each time you find a save point, you'll be charged gems. It starts off small, then increases with each save. It doesn't really add any additional difficulty as gems are found everywhere. You'll finish the game with more gems than what you know what to do with. Also, saving is really only necessary before you turn off the game. Dying doesn't really result in any real penalty. You'll be sent back to the last save point, but still keep any gems or upgrades you found along the way. The only actual penalty is to retread the paths you've already taken. The land is also littered with Mongos. These are peaceful creatures that you were told to not kill, and that their families will pay the monsters gems to get their revenge if you do kill them. It's not really clear if this means the monsters will get stronger or maybe more gems will drop upon their death, but other than your own personal morality, there doesn't seem to be a real reason to save or hurt these creatures, except for maybe in-game achievements. I honestly started killing them after the frustration of multiple deaths, and it was cathartic. I mentioned earlier that this is a Metroidvania game, meaning that it has a large interconnected map that has multiple pathways. Except this is one of the most linear Metroidvanias. Besides gems, there really aren't other collectibles or reasons to explore. There is the Armor of Aster, which will reward you with a special something at the end of the game if you collect all pieces. Otherwise, exploring is pretty pointless. Nightmare Boy seems to take a lot of influence from a lot of old school DOS games when it comes to its art style. In fact, you can toggle a retro filter for further effect. Each world is completely hand-drawn, and for the most part, it's all very appealing. Other times, the art direction seems rushed, or at the least, not as creative. Some enemies are genuinely creepy. They have lots of details and a clear direction. Other creatures are pretty sloppy or basic, and have so little detail that it feels like they were put in there the last second in order to add more creatures to a level. I get that they were going for an older feel, but compared to some of the others that have really great designs, it seems like it muddles the ideas too much. The backgrounds in some areas are truly wonderful, though there are other areas' backgrounds that are moving in a different frame rate than the action. So some areas appear as if you are lagging, but you really aren't. Your enjoyment of this game is really going to depend on how well you can manage your frustration. There are many seriously challenging moments that happen. Like the bosses. At first, they are pretty simple to take down. The first few are really easy. Then there is a giant leap in difficulty around the ice world. Bosses begin to have more health and many more attacks that will cover the whole screen. And of course, if you think it's still too easy, you can increase the difficulty, which gives all enemies more health. That being said, this game is incredibly enjoyable. Although difficult at many times, the joy I got after overcoming a tough boss or a set of traps was much better than the frustration that came before it. Every death is your fault. I never felt like the game was being cheap or unfair. There were only 2 moments where I got upset at the game. One was a glitch that occurred when I died at the same time I killed a boss. This prevented triggering the scene where the child was freed and gifting me an upgrade. The boss never came back and I couldn't save the child. I was able to restart from my last official save point, but if I saved after killing the boss, then I would not have been able to progress. I would have had to start the whole game over. Second, there is a moment where you are talking to a monster and are given the choice to lie to him or tell him the truth. Choosing one allows you access to purchasing upgrades. The other option will not allow you to get those upgrades ever. This is a little too harsh, I believe, because some of those upgrades, like getting a third jump, are needed to find parts of Aster, or bare minimum, make some of the later boss fights easier. Overall, Nightmare Boy is an absolute delight. It's a game I thought about well after I finished it. The game sells for $9.99, and I believe that it's worth that full price. It takes about 5 to 8 hours to finish. The platforming is solid, the bosses are challenging, and the feeling of completion is gratifying. I am eager to see what the Vanir Project has next.